And look, if you read the affidavit that the Justice Department put out, it almost reads like a spy novel. Unfortunately and disturbingly, it is all too real. And what's more remarkable, this wasn't some rogue lone actor. The Justice Department says that this man was plotting to kill Americans here in the U.S. with the blessing of elements of the Iranian government. He said the recent behavior of the court with these decisions is outrageous and destabilizing. And he made some news there by saying that he does support not overturning the filibuster, but he said making an exception to the filibuster for this decision. You've now passed this debt limit bill. You're hearing Democrats say, look, when it comes to raising the debt limit, avoiding an economic catastrophe, there should be no negotiation. That should be by itself. Let's do it. Let's get over this. Why do you think they're wrong?
Because look,
the protest leaders there, mostly women, are calling for even larger demonstrations Saturday and Sunday, knowing full well that just by protesting, just by removing their hijab, their headscarf, they are literally putting their lives at risk. All of these brought forth by former employees of the Washington Commanders. Clearly, Congress doesn't think the NFL is taking their role investigating this seriously, so they're asking the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, and the team's owner to come testify. I want to kind of clarify there. Are you saying that if President Zelensky is asking for those MiG fighter jets or more aid, more sanctions, that Congress wouldn't move or the president wouldn't move unless we're on board with all of our NATO allies in Europe?
Right now, what we're doing, bringing that alliance together.
I have sources I've been talking to that say they've been wanting to bring him in for quite some time, get him under oath, and ask him some serious questions. But it's not just lawmakers. We also have a number of residents from East Palestine that also want to hear from him. Right now, I'm joined by Aaron Stauffer. Aaron, thank you for taking time. He's expected around 8 o'clock Eastern time, Nicole. You can feel the energy here, which is pretty typical at a Trump rally. But I can tell you, I think it speaks to how important this race is to both sides. That the former president decided to come here to Ohio and stunt for J.D. Vance one day before the election.
Let's assume in the next 6 months we're able to develop an effective vaccine. Do we have the infrastructure right now to be able to manufacture it, deliver it, share it with enough people where it actually makes an impact?
it's such a great question. We're actually spending money.
She made news on two fronts. One is that she did say that, yes, there should be an investigation for war crimes against Russia and that the world should be watching it. Up to this point, the White House has not forcefully and explicitly said that they see war crimes committed and thrown their support behind an investigation. A really pivotal point in this conflict right now where there is serious fear Vladimir Putin may opt for a nuclear weapon. Just in the last 24, 48 hours, what have we seen? He's called up 300,000 reservists to now join the war effort in Ukraine. We use that term reservists with a grain of salt, by the way. This is essentially a draft. And it is a major shakeup, Adrian, a shock maybe a year and a half ago or so. The polling told us this was going to be the likely outcome, and it's because more so than anybody else, Liz Cheney has really staked out a position. She has made herself the face of the Republican opposition to former President Trump, voting to impeach him, being the vice chairperson of the January 6th committee, and continuing to call the former president a threat to democracy.
Even if the House moves expeditiously, couldn't legal challenges still hinder your work and significantly slow it up?
Well, I think in communities where there has not been that investment, parts of Oakland where you are from and parts of Detroit where I'm from, yes or no, do you think fewer officers would make those communities more safe?
Here's what I know to be a fact.
It feels like one of those days where history is going to be made here on Capitol Hill. Think about it. 300 days this war has been going on, and President Zelensky has not once left the borders of Ukraine until today. He's going to be flying across the Atlantic, meeting today with President Biden at the White House, and then eventually having the rare honor of addressing a joint session of Congress. A major development, Natasha, we were able to scoop the fact that there is at least now a consideration among McCarthy and his allies for lowering the threshold to actually win the bid for Speaker from winning a majority of votes in the House to just a plurality. After Sandy Hook, nothing legislatively changed, so we thought, is this moment going to be different. And what he told us was he realizes probably nothing major. You know, Democrats would like an assault weapons ban. He said something like that he does not think can get done realistically in this Senate. But he said he thinks some Republicans would be willing to work with him. There's no gray area. This Mississippi law does directly violate Roe versus Wade and the precedent set, banning abortions at 15 weeks. So if this 6-3 conservative majority on the court allows this law to continue and it rules in favor, it totally opens the door for other states to make stricter abortion laws. That's what this pro-life crowd certainly wants to see. Projecting from the White House a sense that the president has a deal that would unite all 50 Democratic senators, including those holdouts mentioned in Sinema that you talked about. But he's going to be addressing Democrats today on the other side of the Capitol. He's going to be speaking to House Democrats, where there is still a large group of these progressives who feel, frankly, like a lot of their biggest agenda items have been left out. What the president's doing today is he's going to bring heads of the formula industry together with members of his own administration who may be in a position to do something about it and address the formula shortage.